Welcome to Vibe Check. Today we're going to be talking about Pride in July. Will we pass the Vibe Check?
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hi, I'm Tone.
Hi, I'm Claire.
Hi, I'm Amela.
And we're from Teens Pact.
Teens Pact stands for Positive Action Choices for Teens. At Teens Pact, we offer reproductive healthcare services, which includes testicular exams, HIV testing and counseling, STI testing and counseling, pap smears. From ages 10 to 24, we offer condoms, dental dams, and more safer sex items.
We've been at Teens Pact for about a month now, and we're just going to kind of share our experience of what we've been doing and speak a little bit about Pride in July.
So here's a jar with the questions, and I'm going to go first. Why is there internalized hate within the LGBTQ community, and how does that create limitations for our growth? I think there's internalized hate because of either religion, beliefs, or just the stigmas that has gone through history. So I think that members just hate themselves because they want to fit the standard of society currently.
Yeah, I also think there's a lot of internalized hatred in the LGBTQ community based off of the outside hating us a little bit. Sometimes, and even people just like making up rumors about us, just being like, oh, some people are this, some people are that. I think that a lot of times we end up taking that hatred and internalizing it a little bit and starting to think that, oh, because straight people don't think that we're okay, or quote unquote normal people don't think that we're okay, that we're bad or that we're wrong for believing what we believe and loving who we love. So I think that a lot of it comes from the outside, and we just kind of start internalizing that a little bit.
I agree.
And also, not to mention, like you said, family also plays a role, like generational trauma and wanting to be accepted by your parents or your friends, and then internalizing that and kind of having this self-doubt or self-pity kind of contributes to that notion.
Definitely.
I think I'll pick the next one. What are some ways individuals and communities can actively support and celebrate LGBTQ plus identities beyond the month of Pride Month? So, as we know, a lot of companies during June will rainbow this, rainbow that. We love gay people. We love this. We love that. And then as soon as July hits, it's all down. Everything, all Target takes the stuff out of their stores, everything. So, it's very annoying that after Pride Month, everyone doesn't want to talk about what it means to be prideful of your sexuality anymore. So I think that some ways that we can continue that is to not be so scared to talk about it when it's not Pride Month. I feel like everyone feels comfortable talking about sexuality and being a part of the LGBTQ community when it's Pride Month, but then after that it's like, I have no reason to talk about it anymore, so I'm not going to. And I think that just kind of makes it hard for us to expand beyond Pride Month if that's the only way we can talk about it, is if through those 30 days, that's the only way we can talk about being ourselves. So I think that talking about it outside of Pride Month, like sexuality, how it feels to be a part of that community, is very important to kind of normalize talking about it even when it's not Pride Month. So I think that people should be more comfortable talking about it, and that's ways we can help to expand, like, talking about LGBTQ pride outside of the month.
Literally, like you said, having conversations like the one that we're having right now is beneficial. You know, having posts on Instagram or IG lives about Pride Month, or no, not even Pride Month, just like LGBTQ plus communities, like having IG lives or conversations about that, and having companies even have memorabilia for Pride, like beyond Pride Month, would be amazing.
It'd be helpful if they didn't just like shut it down right after June 30th, because that's what a lot of them do. And some people talk about it as like performative activism, like I want to look better as a person, so I'm going to start talking about what it means to be gay, what it means to be trans, whatever, when it's beneficial to me. But then when it's not beneficial to me, I'm going to stop talking about it. And that's what makes it very difficult to continue to make progress within the community if everyone just talks about it when it's beneficial for them, and then after it's not a trend anymore to talk about it, people just stop talking about it. So communities can help by talking about it, whether it's Pride Month or not.
I want to shed light on adding labels to everything, Because sometimes it's like, oh, this space is for gay people. This space is for lesbians. I feel like if we want to talk about it, we all should like group together instead of like putting it in like a box of why we should talk about it and how, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of communities like their individual spaces, and that's fine. But that sometimes we have to remember that a lot of us are in the same boat. Like we're not all that different, especially when straight people sometimes all see us as the same thing. Even if we're gay, we're lesbian, we're trans, they all see us as wrong sometimes. So it doesn't really help to divide ourselves and be like, oh, this group is better than this group and this, because that's like the last question about internalized hatred. Like they pit us against each other. And it's just like some people, sometimes lesbians are more accepted in the straight community than gay people are. And it's just like when we pit against each other, it doesn't help. So I think that coming together would probably help a lot more too.
I agree.
Okay. Let's see what this one's cooking. What are some positive representations of LGBTQ plus communities' youth in the media, and why are they important? That's a good question. I think that there's a lot of like new shows that we're seeing, like House on Fire, Pose, and even like artists like Beyonce like having voguing albums or like ballroom albums. So I see like a lot of media being released about LGBTQ youth, and I think that it's inspiring, and it's also really helpful to see people who look like you, especially Black and brown communities, come together and representing LGBTQ plus communities, because honestly for the past couple of years it's been very whitewashed and commercialized, but as of recently in like the year of 2024 and 2023, you're seeing other various artists come out and shed light on the idea of being queer.
Yeah, and I feel like especially in Black and brown communities, it's more stigmatized to talk about being gay. I feel like that's where the white community kind of made some progress, where it's just like, even though not everyone is accepting of it, like it's easier to talk about in those communities than it is if you live in a Black family where it's just like they're Christian and it's hard to talk about being gay because they don't accept you and all that stuff. And I feel like growing up, it might have been easier to accept yourself if you saw people that looked like you and that acted like you in the media. Especially, I feel like a lot of stereotypes, when you get like marginalized communities like this, we get various certain stereotypes that we get when we get put in the media. So even with Black and brown communities, we get angry Black women, we get men in jail, we get slavery, and same thing happens for the LGBTQ community. Like we get certain stereotypes that are put on us in the media, and I just want us to be portrayed as normal. Like we don't have to have the same storyline every single time, you know? And it's just like, or the storyline of the two lesbians who are hating themselves and they come together. Like we don't have to have that. Like why can't we just have like a love story that, you know, like people, the two lesbians love each other, not they're hating their family or not their family hates them. Like it can be like a normal love story just like straight people get. And I feel like that would be helpful for youth to just see not a struggle to love each other if you're like a lesbian or gay, like not have that all that jumbled up in their media, because I feel like it'd be easier for them to just see, oh, these two lesbians love each other and that's how love should be, instead of having them struggle for the whole movie and then we get 2 seconds of screen time with them actually loving each other, you know? So I feel like if we were just portrayed as like not with stereotypes and not with the bad storylines, it'd be really helpful for the youth.
What is Pride in July, and what was the inspiration behind the campaign? So Pride in July, in my words, would be exploring Pride outside of June, and like other than like parades, stores, you know, just exploring more of the history instead of the, I guess, the party aspect of it, which is like a big stereotype among Pride. And the inspiration behind the campaign is the constant, I guess, stigma to talk about Pride other than June. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. For me, Pride in July is the fact that we should be comfortable talking about LGBTQ anything outside of June. June is not the only month where gay people exist. We exist like 12 months out of the year. So we don't gotta just limit it to 1 month for us to be talked about or to be cared about.
I agree. And unfortunately, like the LGBTQ plus community is not the only group that experiences that. Like they do the same thing for Black History Month. Any marginalized group that has a month or a dedicated month for them, they only do it for that month, and you never see any type of camaraderie or anything like that during other months.
Yeah. I feel like, and that's also where a lot of performative activism comes in, where people are just saying stuff to look better. Like, especially in the Black community and during Black History Month, you know, the Black Lives Matter stuff. People was talking about that for February and February only. And then after it hit, it was out of their bios, it was out of their profile pictures and everything. And it just makes it seem like you don't actually care. You just want to look better. You want to be saying, I'm doing something. You want to feel like you're doing something. And the same thing happens for the LGBTQ community. Like, you want to feel like you can seem supportive, but when it comes down to it, if there's an issue in the community, you're not going to do anything about it. So I feel like it's just frustrating to see that even not just in the LGBTQ community, but any marginalized community, how we really only get support, and it's not even real support for a month out of the year. And I think that should definitely be worked on. So I'll pull the next question. How can we understand how intersectionality creates privileges and disadvantages within the LGBTQ community? That's a heavy one, and I got a lot to say about this one. So let's talk about what intersectionality is. So, you know, I'm a gay Black woman. So there's like, Black is one thing, and then a woman is another thing, and then being gay is another thing. It's three communities coming together as one, and that's what intersectionality is. People are from different parts of the world, different groups, everything, and it merges to create advantages and disadvantages in society, basically.
Kind of like an identity.
Yeah, and it's like makes your identity of who you are. And so a lot of people, especially in the gay community, don't understand that their intersectionality privileges it very much shows. So for example, if you're a gay white man and you're talking about how much of a struggle it is to fit in or whatever, like, you may be saying that in front of a trans Black woman who is just sitting there like, we don't experience the same experience. We are not the same. And we may, like, struggle with some of the same things, but at the end of the day, you're a man and you're white, and you do have more privileges than me as a trans woman, or me as a woman in general, that you, like, I don't have the same things that you have. And I feel like some people don't understand that because we have layers that make our identity, we have some advantages and some disadvantages that other communities don't have, even if you're in the same community. So even if we're all lesbians, some of us are white, some of us are Black, some of us are Asian, some of us are Hispanic, and a lot of times when white people talk about their struggles, they fail to include other communities in talking about it. So I feel like intersectionality plays a big role in how people view you, and some things are more socially accepted than others. So even though it's kind of disgusting, a lot of men prefer to see lesbians rather than they would see gay men, even though they're both same gender loving, you know, because for them it's attractive if two girls are kissing, and it's disgusting if two guys are kissing. So I feel like people need to understand that it's not just that you're gay, it's that you're a guy or you're a girl or you're whatever, and you may be Black, you may be white. So different layers and different aspects definitely come together to create those kinds of advantages and disadvantages.
And not only that, like, just to piggyback of what you said, when a lot of people think of the term gay, they automatically think white gay man. And honestly, sometimes I feel a victim of that, like, not gonna lie. And that says a lot, because I'm a trans male Black man. I'm a trans Black man. So sometimes even I, like, when I think of the community, I think of it as like this white community, because that's all you see on shows, that's all you see based off music. You know, now as of recently have I kind of figured out how to not think like that, but when I was younger, I thought like that's all the community was. I didn't see people who looked like me. I didn't even know other people were out there who looked like me. It was like this major wake-up call when I saw Teens Pact, and I saw my schools, and I saw everything that I saw in the world, especially after like the last 2 years coming about. Black people are now being represented.
Yeah, and another thing I want to add on, especially with gay white men, is I feel like they don't understand as well that just because you're gay does not mean you cannot be what's called misogynistic. You can still be that even if you like men. even if you're friendly with women, you can still have those aspects of you, because once again, even earlier in the conversation about internalized hatred, it's like you act feminine, but you don't actually like women. And that's a hard thing for some people to understand. And it's like, you're still a man. So even if you feel more feminine, even if you like to be around women, you still have to respect them. Even if it's just like, oh, I'm gay, I can be in women's spaces and do what I want. Because I've had a few interactions with people, and obviously it's not all, but in my experience, sometimes they get very comfortable being around women, and they'll be very touchy-feely with them. And it's like, you're still a man. Like, that might not be comfortable for, especially, it's like you're like a women's locker room or something. Like, you're not supposed to be in there. So it's like, some people don't understand. It's like, even if you are gay, it doesn't mean you're allowed in women's spaces. You're allowed to be where women are all the time. Like, you're still a guy. So I feel like it's just kind of hard to draw those boundaries. It's like, especially also when people are like, oh, like, if you come out as lesbian, they're like, oh, you don't like me, right? You don't have a crush on me, right? It's like, no, you're not. No. People don't understand those boundaries. So I feel like that's very important when talking about intersectionality. Those layers are very important. So, yeah.
Okay. On to the next. On to the next. Okay. How do we turn Pride into a lesson, not only an event? How can we honor the legacy of Pride and keep building on it instead of it just being a month of parties and events? Okay, so I feel like we should have some type of workshops. Like, there's so many workshops that you could do, or even going to like Stonewall or like Christopher Street, like trips. Like, school should be doing this. There should be like a curriculum based off Pride or LGBTQ communities, because unfortunately, like during February when you have Black History Month, there's only certain topics about slavery, the 60s, the civil rights movement, but there's so much beyond that. And I feel like we should also open up a curriculum for Pride so that kids can experience, multiple communities and multiple bridges other than, U.S. history or global history, because there's so much variety and honestly so many icons that have lived before us who have paved ways. So I feel like there should be workshops, curriculums dedicated for Pride in LGBTQ spaces.
I think there may be a controversy when it comes to LGBTQ in schools, because many conservative parents go to the offices and they're like, no gay stuff in this school because I'm a Christian, or other beliefs. So what would you say about that? Like, how would you help, like, I guess, put that out there?
I don't think, honestly, unfortunately say this, I feel like that's going to happen regardless. Because there's even stuff, with Black Lives Matter and Black History Month where there's, like, people who want to get rid of it. There's banning books. So I feel like that's going to happen regardless. The A is going to happen regardless. So working around that is going to be difficult, to be very honest with you. So I feel like just doing it and then seeing the response may just be the reason that you have to do it.
Okay.
I also think it's hard because not only do they not want their kids to know about it, but it's because they think it's gonna turn their kids gay or trans somehow. Like, that's like, you read a book and all of a sudden I read a fairy book and I'm a fairy. Like, I don't understand how that works, but like it's a very weird mindset to have, that if you teach kids about what it means to be trans, your kid's gonna come home and be like, mother, I want to be a boy. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's so
crazy that you say that, because I was actually having a conversation with a family member about that. Like, I'm trans, and her son calls me, like, he uses he him pronouns with me, and when my sister mentioned that, she was like, oh, that's so cute. They did a face. And even with, we were talking about, even drag queens coming to schools and, like, doing workshops, and they're like, that's going to turn kids gay. Like, and I'm like, well, straight people do that all the time. Straight people come to schools and do interviews, and doesn't mean that your kid's going to be straight.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, it's just so interesting that you mentioned that, because it happens so much. Yeah,
and I don't think it's not the kids who are the problem, because I think kids would find drag queens fascinating, actually. Like all the colors, the big hair, the big makeup. Like I feel like that would be intriguing for them, but it's the parents who have this mindset of, if my kid sees a drag queen, he's gonna come home and ask me to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and that's gonna hurt my feelings. So I feel like it's mostly the parents that we're like fighting with, because I don't think kids, obviously I was taught straight curriculum all my life and look how I turned out. Like it's like it doesn't matter what you're being taught. You're not going to come home and be like, yeah, I like men, I like women. Like that's not how kids' minds works. And they're like, oh, but they're so young, like they're like sponges. It's like, yeah, but that's how you learn stuff. Your kid picks up different hobbies every single week. Billy was just in soccer and now he's in gymnastics. Like it's just how kids like minds work. So I don't understand really. I understand they want to protect their children, but at the same time, even if you protect them from being gay all their life, like if they're gay, they're gonna come out eventually. Like it's not, you can't prevent it. So I think it's important that you allow kids to explore who they are, and
kids don't even really know what sexuality is until like middle school, really. Like I've always known that I was queer, but I never knew the language or the barriers that come with it. Like that happens with exploration, and I feel like parents also don't understand that it's not something that you figure out until you're older. Like it's not something that is like, it's not
right.
like that.
And I feel like some kids would benefit from seeing different people that aren't just straight, because you know, in all the books they got in the library, it's Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella and Prince Charming. Like it's very much heterosexual, and I think that just because it wouldn't, personally, I don't think it would hurt them to see two gay princesses. I don't think it would hurt, but parents think it will hurt. So, I mean, it's hard because parents are the ones who have the say in what goes in the schools. You know, it's like if they're rioting, and the schools aren't just going to put a whole bunch of gay storybooks in the libraries and stuff. So I think that's where the challenge is getting past that stigma and being like, your kids are not going to turn gay if we show them one video about two lesbian lovers. You know what I'm saying? Because we saw straight couples all our life, and we're still gay. So I don't know how else to explain that. So yeah,
I think that's how internalized homophobia comes about.
Like, and you were talking about how families, it's like families is part of the reason why internalized homophobia is such a big thing in kids now, because y'all was hating on us before we even came out. Like, it's crazy to me. So yeah, I'll take the next question. It's okay. How can we create a more diverse pride for everybody and not just a specific group? I think personally, we need more representation of all kinds, lesbian, bi, pansexual, omnisexual, like anything. Like I feel like we see a lot of man on man or women on women. Like can we switch it up a little bit? Like can we just get a little bit more diverse in there? And I also feel like like I said, some things are more socially accepted. Some groups are more socially accepted, and I'm not saying it's in a good way, but some groups are more socially accepted in terms of loving each other in public. Personally, it's kind of disgusting, but you know, some guys find lesbians attractive, and not because they're just like, oh, these women are pretty, but it's like, two women together, that's hot, you know? And it's just, no, it's disgusting. But I feel like to create a more diverse, like, pride for everybody would just probably be talking about more people other than, you know, the classic icons. You know, you can talk about, I feel like maybe talk about people you've never heard about before, like inform people that there are other people out there, like the pioneers of the pride movement, you know, like just talk about more people other than people that we already know about. And I think that would definitely help.
And I think, like you said, like creating more stories and like more outlines for people who look like you and me and Amela, like just having those stories be told instead of seeing like the everyday white male and another white male story. Like there's shows that even only kind of like Queer Eye, like there's so many shows that like only show like the white male aspect of being queer, and then the shows like Pose only show like the black and brown aspect of being queer. So I feel like there's a bridge that needs to kind of connect, and we could come together and kind of bridge that gap and show more variety.
Yeah, guys, we're out of time. You know, that was a good conversation. I got a little heated, but
I agree.
I agree. I mean, it's also awesome to just have a platform about being queer and being queer like yourself, just having people who look like you and having that platform to kind of let people know what's going on.
yeah, and allowing people, especially people like us, people of color, like into those spaces, just to talk about stuff like that is really important. So, I feel like what I'm leaving with is like make sure first of all if you got gay friends, support them. Okay, don't just be a fake ally. You just, oh yeah, my best friend's gay, don't mess with me. Like, no, like actually support your friends. You know, it doesn't have to be a weird thing. It's not because you're gay. It's because you're a nice person. You respect your friends. And I also think that don't be afraid to talk about being gay, being lesbian, being queer, being trans, whatever. Don't be afraid. Even if it makes people uncomfortable, like, let them be uncomfortable. Let them squirm a little bit, Just talk. Like, and that's how you get the spaces to open up. It's by saying those things that people don't want to hear, saying things that people are afraid to say. So I think that's really important.
I want to thank you both for giving me your perspectives. I think they were really awesome, and I'm proud of you both for giving me and talking here.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you.
And make sure you guys follow us on our socials, Teenspect everywhere, Instagram, and teenspect.com.